Pleasure to be here. So my name's Gary Germaine. Played professionally in England for 9 years for West Bromwich Albion, and came over here to America when I was 23 and played in Major League Soccer, Major Indoor League Soccer, and actually just love the country and stayed here, to be perfectly honest with you. So, hey, feel free to come up, ask me any questions. Parents, this is for you too, because I get asked a bunch of questions, and you know, it's my experience. This is not the gospel by any means. It's my experience as a former professional and a coach now. So, anyway, I look forward to talking to you all. Thank you.
Well, let's start with some obvious questions here, Gary. So obviously we've got kids of different age groups here, from the very young guys all the way up to getting ready to graduate out of high school. At what point do we take a look at these goalkeepers and where they're at in their development? When should parents start really thinking that this is a specialized position and maybe, you know, this is where they're going to stay from now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm a big proponent in letting kids experience all different kinds of things. I have my son here with me, Jackson, who's 4, and I personally don't care if he's a ballerina, as long as he's convicted about it. I think the age to focus purely on goalkeeping, I think, is around about 12, 13. I really do believe that. I didn't play my first game as a goalkeeper till I was 12. And my first professional game for Scunthorpe United on loan from West Brom was when I was 17. So, you know, it's a tough position. It takes a lot of growth, a lot of mental toughness, and ultimately, you know, give your kids the opportunity to experience different positions. Goalkeepers nowadays have got to be excellent with their feet. So if they're right back, left back, centre back, truthfully, what happened with me, my coach walked up to me and said, "Gary, if you want to play, you've got to go and goal." I said, "Okay."
Well, that's an important point too, because I think every goalkeeper in their mind thinks they're a centre forward, right? If you're not a goalkeeper, you're definitely a centre forward, just scoring goals. But we've seen the role of a goalkeeper, you know, transform certainly over the last 5 to 10 years, where exactly like you just said, you need to be good with your feet. So it's not just about, you know, being good with your hands, right?
Exactly. You have to work on the basic fundamentals. I went to watch a Premier League, a good friend of mine's a goalkeeper coach, he's at Wolverhampton Wanderers now, Neil Cutler. He was at Aston Villa, invited me to Bodymore Heath, their training ground. And I watched the goalkeepers play in a 5v5 against the outfield players, and they weren't as good, but they were pretty talented. Emi Martinez is the goalkeeper for Aston Villa. He just won the World Cup for Argentina, and he is absolutely incredible with his feet. Distribution is a huge part of goalkeeping nowadays. So just bear that in mind as you develop and you continue to evolve as a goalkeeper.
And I'd be remiss to say that we are giving away a couple of pairs of goalkeeper gloves. So if you come up and ask Gary a question, we're going to kind of see where we're landing with all these questions. And if you got a really good one, come on up and ask him. And yeah, you can win a free pair of goalkeeper gloves. So come on up when you get a chance. Hey Gary, real quick, we talked about the role that a goalkeeper plays physically in the goal with feet, and obviously, you know, being able to stop shots. The mental side is obviously a huge part for goalkeepers, because no matter, you know, what we tell them as coaches, you're the last line of defense, and you know, whether it's just part of the game or not, you take a lot on board, right? You take a lot on yourself. So how do you teach maybe some of the younger kids to deal with that, and then as it gets progressively a little bit older, you know, the mentality is a really big piece.
I think I get asked that question. It's a fantastic question, and I think it's a point. I think it's a great point. Look, goalkeepers, we are going to make mistakes. I don't care who you are. The best goalkeepers in the world do not dwell on those mistakes and do not struggle throughout the rest of the game. My Instagram, the Goalkeepers Academy, Nashville, I put quite a few videos up there on just mentality, mental toughness. It's like anything, guys. At the end of the day, we don't mean to make a mistake, but when we do, you can't dwell on it. You have to get through the rest of the game, and you have to stay focused on what's in front of you and not what's behind you.
All right, we have our first question here. Come on up here, young man. Real quick, introduce yourself. What's your name?
Asher.
All right, what's your question, Asher?
How do you pick a good pair of gloves?
It's personal preference, right? So what I want you to, when you look at your goalkeeping gloves, I was fortunate enough to be sponsored with my goalkeeping gloves when I turned professional. But when I was young, honestly, my dad and my mother were working class, very hard working people. My mom was a model, my dad was a mechanic, and we couldn't afford 70, 80 pound goalkeeping gloves. So, you know, it all depends on your budget. I think the best thing you can do to take care of your goalkeeping gloves is have a game pair and have a practice pair. But make sure the practice pair, the latex is tougher, so because you're going to get more shots in practice than you will potentially in the game. So when you're picking gloves, what I look at is comfort, right? How snug it is to my fingers, and so I can have a good feel of the ball. I don't like gloves that are too thick. I like gloves that I can feel the ball, rather than all the latex when I squeeze my hand. Great question.
Thanks, Asher. Great question. Hey, as we're talking about gloves, and we get into the as we get into the conversation about the equipment, goalkeepers' equipment, gloves now, and Gary just touched on it. You can range from $20, $30 pair of gloves up to couple $100 for a pair. We've been having a debate here, finger save part in the gloves, the stuff that comes back, starts your fingers from bending back. What do you feel? Come on, tell us what the actual right answer is. Because I've seen your fingers, Gary.
So truthfully, I was never a big proponent of that. I didn't grow up with that. I think Adidas were the first ones, or Adidas were the first ones to come out with the finger save. It's personal preference. I did have a couple of finger operations when I went throughout my career, and in practice I did, when I came back from my stitches were taken out of my fingers, I did go ahead and wear finger save just for protection. So I'm not a big fan, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be. It's all what you prefer. I like to be able to feel the ball, and I don't like any tension on my fingers, because a lot of the finger savers spring back. But you can take them out too, right? If you've got some, you can take them out if you don't really like them. But I think in practice, to make your hands stronger and tougher, you have to just wear regular gloves. And like I said, this is my personal opinion. This is not by any means. I'm not getting paid for anything. So thank you. Great question.
All right, we got another question up here from another. Come on in, young man. Introduce yourself and ask your question.
My name is Hadrian Lemke, and my question is, through your experience playing youth through your professional career, what was the toughest challenge you had to overcome or face?
Brilliant question. Thank you for asking. So there's a couple of things. That's kind of loaded, right? Here's the toughest thing. When I got hurt. So bravery, okay? It's just like anything. When you fall off your bike, you don't want to get back on your bike. And it's going in. I broke my jaw away at Tottenham Hotspur in the FA Cup, and I played on for 38 minutes because we didn't have a goalkeeper on the bench in those days. And I came off, and my trainer told me that I'd lost 5 teeth, and I was rushed to hospital, and my jaw was shattered. So 24 hours later, I had an operation. I had 2 metal plates in my jaw. I had to have 2 months of rehab, and then the first thing I had to do in my next game 2 months later was go dive at somebody's feet. And he came through me. He came through me, and it kind of gave me more confidence to say, I've got this, right? I'm glad that happened. I got kicked real early in the game, and I'm back. So, and the other thing that's tough, and it's mental, we'll go back to the mental aspect of goalkeeping. The other thing that's tough is when you have made a mistake, how do you react? Do you dwell on it, or do you move forward? Your parents all make mistakes in their professional lives. We don't mean to, but when we do, we do, okay? The bottom line is we can worry about it afterwards and then analyze why I make that mistake or why you make that mistake, and then correct it in your training methods the week after. That answer your questions? Great question.
All right, we're getting more people up here now. Come on in. Give us your name and ask any question.
Hi, I'm Josh Boyer, and my question is, like, with a PK, do you have any tactics you use? And like with a free kick, how would you set up a wall? Like with what positions or players?
Yeah, great. What's your name? Josh, pleasure to meet you. Great question. Penalty kicks. All right, here's my secret. I've never told anybody this. When I played, and I was actually pretty good at penalties, if I faced somebody number 9 and above, I dove to my right. Below 8 and below, I dove to my left. And now I know we have funky numbers these days, right? 72, 73, and 86 when you watch the Premier League. I'm going right. I'm not going to complicate it. So there's no method in my madness, but when you dive right or you dive left, go with 100%, come off the line and step and be aggressive, right? So you push the ball away. Very seldom do you have the ability to hold the ball, right? You got to parry it away. What was your other question?
How do you treat set pieces,
Yeah.
free kicks?
So this is something that I've covered with a lot of goalkeepers. This is very tactical. So if I'm setting a wall up, there's 2 sides to this. You have 1 in the wall, 2 in the wall, 3 in the wall, 4 in the wall, 5 in the wall. No more than 5 in the wall. Okay, so if the ball is in the middle of the goal, we're standing level with outside the area, but level with the penalty spot. I am stronger to my left-hand side. So I'm going to set the wall up, protecting my right post. Because my strongest side, the wall's taking care of that, and I'm peeking behind the wall to see where the ball is, and I know this is my responsibility, this half of the goal. The wall is that half. Now here's the magic. Here's the magic. When people set up a wall, there's different heights. No. The wall is protecting the right side. So I set it up tall to small. So if I've got all my defenders in the wall and they're 6'2", 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", the tallest guy goes on the outside. Do you know why? Because when you look as an attacker and you see that it's tall to small, they've got to bend the ball over the 6'5" guy to get it in the top corner, right? The closer it is to me, because I'm protecting the left side, I can see that ball come over the smaller player, all right? So that takes time. Set your wall up half a body line or a body line outside of your post. Today's soccer balls move, they bend, they swerve. These players are very, very talented. The higher level you play, the more they can manipulate the ball. All right? So, tall to small. If your strongest side is your left, right? You set it up to, your right. Set it up tall to small. I hope that answers your question. Great question, man.
Okay, real quick, while we're talking about free kicks, you see a lot of on TV now, the guy laying down behind the wall. What's that, like a ramp for the goalkeepers? What's going on there?
So you know what? I have no idea. I think a lot of players jump in the wall, so he's just there or she's just there to protect the ground ball. That's the only reason I can think of. But more often than not, when I see them on the floor, when the ball's hit, they curl up anyway. It's like, they just lay there and get hit.
We have another question for this young man. Come on up, buddy. All right, right, what's your name? And then you can ask Gary. Go ahead.
Osmar.
All right, Osman, ask your question.
How are you?
You want to ask your question?
How hard is it to be a goalkeeper?
How hard?
Good question.
Well, that's a very good question. How hard is it to be a goalkeeper? It is the hardest position on the field. Not only physically, but mentally. Emotionally. Look, I'm a midfielder, I can make 10 mistakes a game. I'm a forward, I can miss 10 shots and score in the last minute, be the hero. As a goalkeeper, I can make multiple saves during the game. If I let one through my legs or through my hands in the last minute, I'm the fall guy. So that's the mental toughness of a goalkeeper. I will be very candid with you, great question, but my job as a goalkeeper is to make sure in practice I outwork my competition and make myself mentally tougher. If your coach asks you to do 12 push-ups and your other goalkeeper's doing 12, you do 13, 14. Be competitive, all right? High standards. Great question.
Thanks, Osman. All right, we got one more question over here. Come on in.
My name's Sam. My name's Sam, and I have a question that, what is the most useful skill to have when playing goalkeeper?
Most useful skill. I think, goodness gracious me, I could be here all night. I think it's being able to communicate with your defenders so you don't have to make any saves, right? Organized, being able to communicate to your defenders when to cover, when to pressure, when to mark goal side, when to be half moon. But one of the biggest things I always did with my centre backs and my right back and my left back, depending on what formation we played, is I always knew their strengths and I knew their weaknesses. So as a goalkeeper, I think if you can read the game to prevent yourself and to help your teammates, because you're their eyes and ears, if you can read the game and really dictate and manipulate where that ball goes by your communication, I think you'll see that will help you immensely. Great question.
All right, we got a young lady here with a question. Come on up.
I'm Catalina, and how do you decide when to come out for 1v1s?
Love the question. So, as a professional, we play against the teams twice a year. We watch them on TV, right? And we can study our opponents and we know their strengths and weaknesses. So if I'm coming down a 1v1, I'm gonna research that player, what they've done in the last 3 or 4 games when they've gone one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and I'm gonna have that mentally in my head. You guys will play against the same players every now and again, but not as often as I did. So sometimes you've got to rely on your own judgment. When to come, when to stay. The thing is with goalkeepers, when they have a one-on-one, they tend to go to the ground quickly. The first thing a defender and a goalkeeper should do when defending is delay the attacker, right? Delay. Why am I delaying? If I'm on a one-on-one with you, I'm going to stand up as long as I can. I'm going to make myself as big as possible. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to delay. So in my defenders, I can see my defenders coming back. He can't or she can't, right? So, excuse me. I'm going to delay them and stand up as big as I can. But go with aggression. When you dive at somebody's feet, I assure you, if you go soft, you'll get hurt. If you go through the ball and through the opponent, through your defender, who cares? Right? That's the truth. Our job is to stop the ball. And if you're clean and you go for the ball, and then you get the attacker, and then you get your own defender, and you get your own coach, or whatever, it doesn't matter. Do it.
Thank you.
So Gary, you mentioned about watching game film on your opponents. Obviously, when you play out of career like yours, you get to see a lot of film on different players. But during a game, these guys might get to see, sure, maybe a home and away game against a team. How can they learn in the game, perhaps, looking at a player's speed, maybe which foot they use? I mean, little tips that you can pick up right away during a game. How do you handle that?
watch their warm-up. So if I'm looking and I'm stretching and I'm there down there, the attacker's down there, and I'm watching doing a finishing exercise, you know what the truth is watch them, study them. The more opportunity you get to just look at people and look at their techniques and look at what they do they move, you know, when are they approaching the ball, how are they approaching the ball, are they driving the ball in the corner, do they go across their body, you know, do they try to chip the goalkeeper a lot? Just study them. And that is different. The higher level you play, the more opportunity you get to really study your opponent. I used to play against the same people 2-3 times a year. And when I was young, I used to play against the same people throughout my career 10, 11, 12 times, right? So just study your opponent, watch them in the warm-up. If you're in a tournament and the team you play tomorrow morning is playing on Saturday night, say, Dad, Mom, can I stay? I just want to watch that attacker for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You don't have to stay for the whole game, but that's what I would do. My mom and dad were just like, yeah, sure, Gary, whatever. We don't care. So study your opponents.
All right, I think we got time for one more question. Come on in, young man. A little repeat question here.
My name is Ezra. How important is it, how important for goalie is footwork? Like ball skills.
Ball skills, okay. It's imperative, okay? So like I said, you have to be able to, if you look at the best goalkeepers in the Premier League right now, in my opinion, this is my humble opinion, I love to watch Beckham play, okay, for Liverpool. He's very good with his feet. The Man City goalkeeper, Edison, very good with his feet. And then you've got Emi Martinez for Aston Villa, very good with his feet. Okay, so it's vitally important to be able to have and be able to be comfortable with the ball either on your left foot or your right foot. Okay, so when it comes to footwork, when you're moving around the goal, creating space, it's very important. I always, when I do my one-on-one private sessions with a goalkeeper, I'll always start out with footwork. And then I'll introduce the ball. So it's footwork with a diving save, whether it's low, middle, or high. Okay? But it's sidestepping. Goalkeepers have to move left, right, forwards, and backwards. And the best goalkeepers have the art of creating space. Let me ask you a question. When you're standing for a corner, and the corner's to your right-hand side, you stand there like this, right? And the attacker's standing right by you. You've got to move forwards, move backwards to create space so you can come for the cross. Okay? Because that attacker's going to follow you. Don't just stand there because he'll be like, okay, this is easy. Right? You've got to be able to be moving around. You've got to be able to challenge them and push them away. Don't foul them, but be physical. Just move your arm. Referee, watch this. Ref, watch him. Right? I'm good for time. But great question.
All right, real quick. So while Gary's just jumping in the back there, hey, we talked a lot about other goalkeepers and stuff. Do you have a current favorite? You mentioned Martinez quite a few times.
Yeah, I don't, because it's a good question. I don't. My favorite growing up as a young boy, some of you may not remember him, but he was just different, was there was Peter Schmeichel for Manchester United. He's probably the most, when I look at his body shape and my body.
Who you admire and who you've grown up watching. Obviously there's 10 other positions on the field. Who's some of the better players you've played against as a goalkeeper? We probably shouldn't talk about who scored on you. Come on. Who scored the best goal against you?
No, I'm human. I've been scored on by the worst and the best of them, I assure you. So I'm 47 years of age, and the guy I grew up playing against a lot in the youth teams, there's a class of '92, Manchester United. So you've got David Beckham, Paul Scholes, Gary Neville, Phil Neville, Ryan Giggs was a little year older as a YTS when I was at West Brom. So the best player I've ever played against, and best midfielder I would say was Paul Scholes. He was absolutely incredible. He never gave the ball away. He ran all day long. And he was a tough opponent. But the most talented player I played against from a free kick standpoint, and he did score on me a few times, was David Beckham. David was very, he was a perfectionist. He used to work on his game. You get to know these guys as you play against them all the time, go in the players' lounge afterwards and all that good stuff. But, you know, David Beckham, Ryan Giggs was just the fastest thing I've ever seen. He was young coming through Man United, but they just had an aura about them. David Beckham, Paul Scholes, Ryan Giggs, Phil Neville, Gary Neville were solid players, but David Beckham for sure from free kicks, and then I would look at Paul Scholes.
Now, when Beckham puts a free kick past you, do you just stand there and you're like, all right, yeah, that's, all right, nice.
No, I want
So here, what's your name, buddy?
Brennan,
Brandon, all right, go ahead, ask your question.
should you cheat on one side or the other on a penalty kick?
Yeah, so we cover, good question. My advice to you is do whatever you feel comfortable doing. But what I did is I just picked a side by their number and dove at 100%. And make sure, if you're standing, this is the goal line here, you've got to stand on the goal line, right? So make sure, as they're running at you, you step forwards. So it's 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock. The first step is 2 o'clock if you go into your right, and if you go into your left, it's at 10 o'clock. Because that creates a mistake zone, right? If you step parallel along the line, you don't have a mistake zone. So your first step has to be positive and out, plus it narrows the angle. So a mistake zone to me is, we talked about creating space. A mistake zone is if I am going to step to the ball and I spill a ball, I can recover down here, right? I can recover because I've got a yard or so. And if I dive forward, I've got 2 yards. But if I go parallel and it slips under my hand, it's a goal. So everything we work on as a goalkeeper has to be positive, aggressive. Goalkeepers, the best goalkeepers have fast twitch muscle fibers, right? So they're very strong over short spurts, right? Sprinting, pushing to create space. So, yeah, great question.
All right, I think we got one here. Thanks, buddy.
Hadrian again, but so is it important of what you do off the field, as in like what you say and do, and coach sees you? Like, does it matter what?
So you're talking about being a good teammate, right? Challenging your teammates. Yeah. Hey, look, at the end of the day, hold your teammates accountable. I taught, my dad was a mechanic, and he was running a gas station, repair gas station. He had mechanics that worked for him. He held them accountable, right? They held him accountable. So, in anything in life, and this is one thing about goalkeeping. You go on my Instagram, you'll see at the Goalkeepers Academy Nashville. I do video posts and just a chat about different things. But if you're a great teammate and you hold yourself to high standards, your teammates are going to love you, right? If you're kind of a silent dissenter and you're talking behind the coach and this, that, and that, I want nothing to do with you because I'm all in with this coach and these players. All right? So the truth is, positive, everybody makes mistakes. Hold your teammates accountable. Now, there's a right way to deliver a message, and there's a wrong way. Okay? So be audible, ready, and articulate enough to speak, right? think it through in your head and say, hey, look, I think you could have done better there. Next time we're in that situation, why don't you shield him to the touchline rather than pushing him inside? Because he's stronger on his right side than he is his left. That's a good delivery. Just say, hey, that was terrible. You should have done better. He's going to resent that. So your delivery has to be articulate and has to be kind of willing, helping them. Don't just chastise them, help them. All right? Like they help you.
All right, guys. So I'm going to ask Gary to give you a little bit of information about how you might be able to get a hold of him, the work he's doing locally here, and obviously, you know, just wrap things up with some inspirational words. Inspiring.
Okay. So the Goalkeepers Academy Nashville on Instagram. I do a lot of videos, just Q&A. You know, it's I'm passionate about this. This position is only going to get more and more complicated. Some of you don't have a goalkeeping coach, but I challenge you on that. I never had a goalkeeping coach. My mom and dad could not afford a goalkeeping coach, but I turned into a professional player at the age of 16. You know what my goalkeeping coach was? A wall. And it never got tired. It never got tired. I used to kick a ball against the wall, boom. And I used to make it hard on myself by saying, I've got to catch 50 balls clean before I go in. My mother and father were sitting the other side of that wall going, God, I wish you'd get those 50 saves in, right? Because it was pounding against the wall. But the biggest thing I can tell you as a goalkeeper is enjoy yourself. Enjoy it. Don't overthink a mistake. You're going to make mistakes. Like I said, your parents make mistakes every single day in their work life, right? And even raising kids. Well, I make mistakes, my 4-year-old. But enjoy it, enjoy your teammates, and remember, I wake up, I have dreams I could play again. I'm too old now. So when you've got the opportunity like this event put on, embrace it, enjoy it. Say hello to that person you don't know. Reach out, congratulate them on a great win, right? Don't be bitter if you get beat. Just remain positive, push yourself. We only can play this beautiful game for a certain amount of time. Okay? So when you're out there and you're in the rain like you are today, you're making memories. You're making memories. For you parents out there that are spending the time, my understanding is speaking to Tanya throughout the week, a lot of people, 17 states people have come in from, right? 17 states. So the support of your parents, the support of your grandparents or whomever brought you is immense. So keepers, play with a smile on your face. Don't overthink, don't overcomplicate your thing. And the best piece of advice is control what you can control. And that's what's in front of you, not what's behind you. All right, thank you.
All right, let's give it up for Gary. Thank you, Gary. Our two gentlemen who asked questions, come on up. You're going to get a free pair of gloves for asking questions, guys. Come on up here. You can get a picture with Gary. We got some that are going to fit you. Want to take a picture? We'll get you a pair of them that will fit for you. If the parents want to come up and get a picture, you can.
All right, come here, guys.
Come on, guys. Go get a picture.
Hold these.
All right, guys.
Get a smaller pair, guys. There's 1/6 there. And we'll leave these two old ones.
We'll have you guys go to the store and get your pair.